Welcome to a battlefield of minds. Two grandmasters face off where every move cuts like a sword. One mistake, and it's over. This isn't just chess, it's war disguised as strategy. Let's dive in move by move into this epic clash. Wesley So thrusts the d-pawn to d4 like a spear into the center, staking claim and challenging Línea Domínguez Pérez immediately. Línea Domínguez Pérez develops his knight to f6, calmly eyeing the center while keeping his position flexible and resilient. Wesley So advances the c-pawn to c4, constructing a broad pawn center that radiates control across the heart of the board. Línea Domínguez Pérez fianchettos with g6, preparing his dark bishop as a long-range sniper on the diagonal. Wesley So brings his knight to c3, reinforcing the central stronghold and sharpening pressure against black's setup. Línea Domínguez Pérez completes the fianchetto with bg7, unleashing a powerful bishop down the long diagonal toward d4. Wesley So strikes with e4, erecting a formidable pawn duo in the center that dominates space and restricts black. Línea Domínguez Pérez replies z6, bolstering control of f5 and preparing to challenge white's central phalanx. Wesley So develops nf3, adding another attacker to the center and quietly preparing to castle. Línea Domínguez Pérez castles kingside with 0-0, tucking his king safely away behind a solid pawn shield. Wesley So develops b2, calmly improving his piece, while clearing the path for rapid kingside castling. Línea Domínguez Pérez lunges, with e5 directly challenging white's center and igniting tension in the position. Wesley So captures d5, crashing into the center and opening sharp lines through black's structure. Línea Domínguez Pérez recaptures with dsf5, restoring material balance while keeping central tension alive. Wesley So shocks the board with qx8, exchanging queens early and dragging the game into an unusual middle game. Línea Domínguez Pérez responds rx8, his rook stepping forward to replace the fallen queen with authority. Wesley So pins with bg5, targeting the f6 knight and subtly hinting at future tactical possibilities. Línea Domínguez Pérez sidesteps with r-fight, unpinning the knight and keeping his rook actively positioned. Wesley So leaps nd5, planting his knight deep in enemy territory like a dagger aimed at black's heart. Línea Domínguez Pérez captures with nxd5, eliminating the intruding knight with cold, clinical precision. Wesley So plays cxd5, his pawn smashing through the center, opening the c-file and keeping his pieces tightly coordinated for attack. Línea Domínguez Pérez replies chicks, jabbing at white's advanced pawn and preparing to undermine Wesley So's central foothold. Wesley So develops bc4, sliding his bishop onto a razor diagonal aimed directly at Feven and the black king. Línea Domínguez Pérez strikes cx5, ripping the center open and inviting tactical chaos across the battlefield. Wesley So recaptures with bx5, planting his bishop in the heart of the board like a commanding general. Línea Domínguez Pérez calmly plays n7, rerouting the knight toward b6, while reinforcing key central squares. Wesley So castles long with 000, tucking his king away and activating the rook on the open d-file. Linea Dominguez Perez replies NB6, chasing the active bishop and seeking counterplay along the queenside this evening. Wesley So retreats BB3, preserving the diagonal pressure while keeping his bishop perfectly placed for future tactics. Linea Dominguez Perez develops beds even, connecting his rooks and constructing a solid defensive backbone for black. Wesley So plays b3, harmonizing his bishops and sharpening his sights toward black's kingside fortress tonight. Linea Dominguez Perez drops b6, activating the bishop and controlling long diagonals that cut across the center. Wesley So brings nd2, quietly rerouting the knight to support a looming kingside pawn storm ahead. Linea Dominguez Perez sidesteps with kite, tucking his king deeper away from brewing tactical fire tonight. Wesley So lungers f3, building a massive pawn wall and preparing a crushing central push forward. Linea Dominguez Perez counters 5, slamming the center shut while launching his own aggressive counter-strike immediately. Wesley So storms h4, sending a pawn charging like cavalry straight toward black's vulnerable kingside shelter. Linea Dominguez Perez answers, a5 meeting fire with fire, in a brutal wing-pawn showdown for dominance. Wesley So calmly plays keybone, sliding his king to safety before the coming explosion on board. Linea Dominguez Perez mirrors with Cash-7, stepping off the back rank and bracing for Wesley So's attack. Wesley So retreats bc2, pulling the bishop to safety while keeping a sharp diagonal aimed toward Linea Dominguez Perez kingside. Linea Dominguez Perez plays b6, activating his bishop aggressively and locking eyes with the critical e3 square. Wesley So explodes with bxb6, slicing off black's knight in a precise tactical strike that shakes the queenside. Linea Dominguez Perez recaptures xb6, opening the a-file but leaving his pawn structure cracked and vulnerable. Wesley So jumps nc4, centralizing his knight like a spear pointing simultaneously towards 6 and b6. Linea Dominguez Perez lashes out fc4, grabbing a central pawn but loosening vital lines around his king. Wesley So snaps back with nc5, eliminating the advanced pawn and restoring material balance with icy precision. Linea Dominguez Perez replies x3, tearing open the g-file, unleashing dangerous counterplay and exposing lines around Wesley So's king. Wesley So strikes in c6, forking through the center and ripping another pawn from black's shattered position. Linea Dominguez Perez pushes fxg2, unleashing a terrifying passed pawn that races toward promotion with venom. Wesley So activates Ragon, racing his rook to the g-file to blockade the raging pawn and prepare a lethal counterstrike against Linea Dominguez Perez. Linea Dominguez Perez replies bf6, recapturing in the center while leaving dark weaknesses that shimmer across his battered position. Wesley So crashes rd7, storming the 7th rank with a check that fractures black's coordination and rattles his defenses. Linea Dominguez Perez drops back bg7, interposing his bishop to shield the king and blunt the invading rook's fury. Wesley So slashes bxgxgs, sacrificing his bishop with brutal tempo and dragging the black king into open danger. Linea Dominguez Perez steps Cachas, moving into the shadows yet stumbling directly toward a brewing storm. Wesley So plays RxGTR, his rook swooping in to devour the poisonous pawn and restore breathing room. Linea Dominguez Perez answers Arefonene, hurling a rook check that slices across the back rank like a blade. Wesley So calmly plays KC2, stepping out of danger while keeping his rooks tightly connected for the attack. Linea Dominguez Perez grabs Rx-Atvo, snatching a pawn on the rim in a desperate bid for counterplay. Wesley So crashes Rx-Seek7, his rook devouring the G7 bishop in a shocking burst of violence that flips momentum completely. Linea Dominguez Perez is forced KXZ7, his king stepping forward to capture, bloodied yet stubbornly clinging to life. Wesley So stabs BD3, driving his bishop into the diagonal and forcing black's king to make an uncomfortable decision. Linea Dominguez Perez shuffles KF6, sidestepping the check while trying to escape Wesley So's tightening net. Wesley So snaps BXF1, calmly eliminating black's rook and converting tactical pressure into cold material gain. Linea Dominguez Perez answers Rafur, swinging his remaining rook aggressively along the fourth rank in desperation. Wesley So plays RHTU, lifting his rook to an active square and preparing to swarm the exposed black king. Linea Dominguez Perez fires RF4, checking activity and trying to generate counterplay against white's coordination. Wesley So drops B2, retreating his bishop to safety while keeping control of critical central diagonals. Linea Dominguez Perez slides, call J6, marching his king forward in a risky attempt to stay in the fight. Wesley So thrusts BD3, driving his bishop onto a lethal diagonal and forcing Linea Dominguez Perez, exposed king, to move. Linea Dominguez Perez steps KF6, slipping out of check while desperately searching for breathing room. Wesley So calmly plays KD2, centralizing his king and tightening the noose around black's position. Linea Dominguez Perez pushes C5, trying to create counterplay and open lines in a losing position. Wesley So retreats B2, reinforcing key squares and keeping his pieces perfectly coordinated for the final assault. Linea Dominguez Perez shuffles KG6, marching his king forward but walking deeper into Wesley So's trap. Wesley So advances K3, bringing his king aggressively into the fight like a final commanding general. Linea Dominguez Perez swings RB4, activating his last rook in a desperate attempt to resist. Wesley So strikes BD3, another crushing check that slices through black's fragile defenses. Linea Dominguez Perez stumbles Kajix, retreating into the corner as danger closes in from all sides. Wesley So activates RG2, sliding his rook into position to deliver the final decisive blows. Linea Dominguez Perez replies RB3, trying to cling to the board with his last active piece. Wesley So crashes RG6, launching a thunderous check that smashes through Black's last resistance. Linea Dominguez Perez shuffles Kaksevin, stepping back but with nowhere left to hide. Wesley So delivers RxB6, snatching the final pawn with devastating force and ending the battle in triumph. The video ends here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you again, everyone. See you in the next video.